Every year, fantasy managers fall for the same trap, drafting wide receivers at their ceiling. Today, we're talking about 6 wide receivers that we'll avoid drafting in 2026.
All right, starting off, our first receiver fade for 2026 is Tetairoa Mcmillan. And at the end of last season, if you take a look at this graphic here, from week 15 to the wild card game, Jalen Coker took a big jump and was actually a weapon for this offense, and actually performing better than Tet did to end the season. And they did just extend him this offseason as well. And I'm not saying Coker is going to be the number one option for this offense, but it'll obviously still be Tet. But Coker will take on a bigger role, and Tet won't have the volume needed to finish as a top 12 receiver, I don't think. Especially with Bryce Young only having 4 games over 200 yards passing. The QB play won't be good enough for him to be a consistent receiver too, and he will be an up and down receiver all season long, I think. And it's not like he was that great last year. He only averaged 12.4 points per game. So spending a third round pick on Tet will be a costly decision, I think. And there are many other players in the third round there that I prefer over him. Okay, moving on. Our second receiver that we're avoiding this year is Jameson Williams.
And here now, if you look at this chart with Jameson Williams, he averaged 10.95 points per game when Sam Laporta was healthy and on the field, but 15.18 points without Sam Laporta on the field. He relies on the big plays, but is very inconsistent, along with his 18% target share, which is very low. But I expect the target share to go down even further with the healthy Sam Laporta on the field. He also benefited a lot when Dan Campbell took over calling plays, and now with the new offensive coordinator and Drew Petzing, it can raise a couple questions here. At his current ADP, there's guys like Egbuka, Carnell Tate, Mike Evans, and Devontae Adams. I'd all rather him over JMO right now. Don't get me wrong. He has the upside to win you any week in your lineup, but he has the ability to put up donuts for your lineup week in, week out. At his ADP right now, like I said, there's better options there that I would rather over JMO.
I also think if you're getting him as your receiver too, it's really just a terrible pick because his floor is literally 0 points. He's gonna have
Yeah.
multiple games where he scores zero. Especially there's so many mouths to feed in that offense. It just if he's your flex, it's honestly it's a better pick than him being your receiver too. Obviously because he's gonna have those spike weeks. Like he had a bunch of games where he has that deep touchdown or he just rips one. So I think if he's your flex, it's not as bad as a pick, but I still wouldn't like it. But if he's your receiver too, it's probably the worst pick you can make there.
And the upside with Sam Laporta on the field just isn't really there that much. Like
He had
in
one game
LA,
over 20 points with Laporta, so.
and Laporta only played 70% of snaps that week.
Mhm.
That was the game he left and got hurt.
And also, I think the new OC, if it's gonna hurt anyone, it probably would be him. Really last year when Dan Campbell started calling the plays, it was significantly different. He had many more drag routes, a lot of more simpler, easier patterns compared to where he was really just a clear out last year when John Morton was calling the plays. So you really don't know how he's going to be used when Petzing is calling the plays. Now we know Petzing does love tight ends, which last year Trey McBride had over 170 targets. So if Petzing loves Laporta, obviously I'm not going to say he's going to have a McBride type season, but it could knock Jameson Williams as the fourth option for this offense instead of the third.
Yeah, and those weeks 1 through 7, man, you see that inconsistency. 6, 6, 5, 2, and 0. You cannot afford that in your wide receiver 2 position, especially in like the fourth, fifth round. You're gonna take this guy. So
All right, third receiver that we are avoiding for 2026 is Luther Burton.
Luther Burden, my biggest problem with Burden is his price tag. He's going super high on every single platform right now, as we see up there. He's going as the wide receiver 21 on Underdog. And also, this compares to Roma Dunze, who I believe is in the same situation, same team. He's 1 year older than him, or what is it? One year older than him,
Mm.
and he's going at the wide receiver 28, which is seven receiver positions higher than Luther Burden. He still has to deal with Colston Loveland as well, who we believe is the number one option in this offense. Um, he had a super low snap share last year, and if you look at his game log, it really was not that impressive. In the playoffs, he only had like three catches in both games. He really had that one boom game against the San Francisco and against the 49ers that really like is pushing him in this position now. We also see a lot of the training camp hype from Ben Johnson, which you can't really fall into that hype too much. So he's just the what's it called? The risk is just way too high taking him this early in drafts.
Exactly. Too early is the problem here. Like, look at his game log. Yes, they got rid of DJ Moore. Snaps will open up. He finished the year playing 40% of snaps the entire season. Like you said, the one boom game versus the 49ers. That secondary was horrible last year. It was insane what Robert Saleh did with that defense, but that game was also a shootout. And look at the playoffs. He didn't do well in that either. He had 2 games over 100 yards. One was versus Dallas in week 3 when he had the 3 catches and the 45-yard touchdown. See, where you're taking him, like you said, the wide receiver 21, that's a wide receiver 2 on most teams. that is very hard to return on value, we think, of what Luther Burden is going to do. So that's why I'd rather guys lower than him. I'm not the biggest fan of Roma Dunze, but I think they'll play both a similar role in this offense and will both play out the same.
It kind of relates to the Charger situation, I believe, because it's the same thing with Ladd and QJ. You can get QJ so many picks later, and I just feel like it's very close to the same exact player. So this is the same thing for me, where you can get a Dunze a round later compared to Burden and his really high price.
Yeah, and I don't really understand why everyone thinks he's just going to come in. And I know he didn't even beat out Olamide Zaccheaus last year. I don't know why people think
No.
he's just going to come in and be the receiver one for this offense. When I do think Adunze is going to be the receiver one, and I do think Adunze is better than him. And Loveland is definitely the number one target on this team, so he's not going to be the number one option. He might not be the number two option. So I just don't think him going this high is really worth it. I mean, you see his sleeper ADP is 38. I just don't see how he can really return on value, especially when the Bears are a pretty run heavy offense too. And only a harder schedule, I do think they're going to get less efficient offensively too, I think. So I just don't see how him going at an average ADP of 45 can really be worth it for your teams there.
Like
There's
if he
always
was
going to be inconsistency with Caleb Williams with his
Mhm.
completion percentage. He's got to get that up.
like if he was so good, then he'd be playing over Zaccheaus every single snap. He wouldn't have
Exactly.
15 routes per game. That was his stats list. He had 15 routes per game. There's a reason why his yards per route run was so high, is because he didn't have any routes. So I mean, and that's probably the main reason why his ADP is so high, because of that yards per route run, which is what it was super high. It was 2.71, which was like the best by a rookie in the last decade. So I mean that only is highlighted because he didn't play. His snap share was hovering around the 50% as a receiver. That is not good.
All right, the fourth receiver that we are avoiding for 2026 is Alec Pierce. And Pierce had off-season surgery this offseason on his ankle, and he has missed significant time and has raised concerns about his availability for the start of the upcoming season. As there have been multiple reports actually saying that Pierce might miss the whole training camp, which would cause a very slow start to the season. As this tweet says, they would expect a slow, gradual ramp up weeks 1 through 4. And especially for a receiver that basically every target he gets is down the field, as his average yard per target over the last 2 seasons has been 11.94, and his yards per catch is close to 22 yards. And Pierce has never had a season where he's went over 50 receptions. So the big ankle injury, and he doesn't get the easy targets that the coach schemes up for you. It's really just not a recipe for success. Also, Pierce was a waiver wire player for most of last season, and just because Pippen left, I don't think it makes him the number one option for this offense. As I think Warren is definitely going to be the number one option, and in my opinion, I think Downs will also be one of Daniel Jones' go-to options as he's coming off the Achilles tear. So Pierce in the seventh round just makes no sense to me, as it isn't going to be a consistent player, and there are question marks on if Jones can be the same player as he was last year after the Achilles tear.
From what we saw a season ago with Kirk Cousins and a season ago with Aaron Rodgers, we saw that quarterbacks coming off the Achilles tear really struggle to push the ball down the field. And where does Pierce thrive on? Plays down the field. If Jones can't throw the ball down the field like he did last season, Alec Pierce isn't going to be good. He's just not going to be. Well, he'll be okay. He won't be that good. And then you can't downplay this ankle injury. This is a 4 to 6 month injury timeline, and he's expected to miss, if not all of training camp. And he's hoping to play week 1, but how good can he be and how fresh can he look? It's an easy avoid here, I would say.
I've seen clips of him walking just at practice. He doesn't look like he's even close to coming back. I mean, he literally looks like he's hobbling when he's walking. I know he still has a brace on his ankle too. So, okay, our fifth player that we are avoiding this season is DJ Moore.
You look here at DJ Moore, people think that he's in a great situation in Buffalo, which is definitely true. But after his 2023 season, he finishes the wide receiver 8 and has only seen a decline. He's entering his 9th season now. He's on the older side of wide receivers. In Chicago, over the last 2 seasons, Moore has practically played all the snaps. Yes, they brought in more wide receiver competition over those years, but he's become one of the most inefficient wide receivers in all of football. In 2023 season, he had a 28.5% target share and yards per route run of 2.31. In 2024, he had a target share of 26.6 and a yards per route run of 1.44. In 2025, he had a target share of 15.3 and yards per route run of 1.24. He's been on a steady decline for the past 2 seasons. And now I do expect these numbers to go up in Buffalo, but I just don't see him as a wide receiver 2 in fantasy this year. I see him more as a flex play, and where you're drafting him at, it doesn't return any value. He did finish as the wide receiver 46 last season, but I do expect that he finishes lower than that but in the range where you can get him, he's set up to return way less value for you. There's a bunch of other guys I'd rather over him, especially looking at these ADPs 55, 55, and 56. There's no way he should be in that range as he's a declining old wide receiver. And there it is.
I think people forget that Stephon Diggs, the only reason he asked to be traded from this team is because once Joe Brady became the OC back in that 2023 season, he just didn't get the ball. And I don't think that didn't change when they signed Amari or when they traded for Amari Cooper in 2024 either. So I just don't think that DJ Moore coming to the Bills really, I don't think he's going to be good. The two players before him, like Diggs and Cooper, they really didn't change anything. They both had not many targets a game and just didn't get the ball. This team really, they just want to run the ball. And Joe Brady, he does spread the ball around. Shakir, Kincaid, those are still solid options for this offense. Cook's the receiving back. They love Ty Johnson, the receiving game too. So I just don't see how DJ Moore, an average ADP of 55, is really a good pick. I think he should be going closer to the 7th round.
The only thing about DJ is that his situation just looks so attractive. You see it. Oh, he's Josh Allen's new wide receiver one. Oh, he was very good a couple of years ago. This could be his bounce back. But I just feel like this is not the right offense to really resurge, if you know what I mean. They run the ball too much. I don't think he's going to score many touchdowns either. I think Cook will be the touchdown machine that like he was last year. So it's just a shaky situation. It's probably better than if he stayed in Chicago again, definitely. But again, it's a will he return his value type of thing, and we just don't believe so.
He's a declining wide receiver on a run-heavy offense. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it there.
And Shakir, the only thing Shakir can do is catch screens and run after the catch. So I don't think his role can really change at all because you can't use him as any other type of receiver. He's going to be that underneath guy. And that's really what DJ Moore excelled in back in that 2023
He had
season
a lot of
with
screens.
Justin Fields. Yeah, he had a lot of screens. He had a lot of
Even
drives.
last year.
He's a very good guy after the catch, but he's like these last years when they stopped using him there, he's really not that good of an intermediate guy. He's a body catcher. He drops passes. He doesn't really get open that much. So I don't think he's going to be used the way that he was in that 2023 season with Justin Fields and the Bears. And why would they when Shakir's been pretty solid there too these last couple of years? Our last receiver that we are avoiding for the 2026 season is Malik Nabers.
Malik Nabers, do not get me wrong. This guy is a stud, absolute dog. But the main concern with us is his injury, this ACL injury. He also, in his injury, it wasn't just ACL, his ACL and meniscus had to be repaired. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not the greatest on this stuff, but I'll just read off what I've seen. I feel like a lot of people are underestimating his knee injury. As we saw in a video, you really can't take this too much, but when he ran to first base in that Brian Burns softball game, it did not look promising at all, and that was only less than a month ago. So with these injuries, you can expect around a week 4 return, which will definitely put him on the PUP. Which when you're taking him in the 2nd round on ESPN and Sleeper, he's going 18-21, which is way too high. You're getting a guy who's not going to start playing football till week 5. That's you're missing out on 60 points over there. You know what I mean? So it's not going to pay off with this. His ADP just does not make sense. He's a great player, but just not being healthy and it's super questionable. It does not pay off in the 2nd round, early 2nd round.
Also, I think when he comes back in week 5, it's going to take him some time to ramp up if he's not available for the whole training camp. And I also think that him and Dart honestly might just have no chemistry. They've rarely played football together. Last offseason, Russ was the starting quarterback, so in training camp he was really catching the ball from Russ, and then they played not even half a game last year. They're going to miss another whole offseason together. So I just think that doesn't bode well. And also Harbaugh coming in, bringing in a run-heavy scheme that also doesn't help him. So he's really going to be, when he comes back, he's going to be target reliant. He's going to have to be next to what JSN was last year in that over that 30% target share area to be able to really. I mean, honestly, I don't even think he's going to be possible to return on value if he stays at ADP 23. You'd have to average almost 25. You'd have to be the number 1 receiver when he comes back, basically, for him to return on value.
I would expect his ADP to fall. But right now, I don't know if it stays in this position, even if it drops down to 30, underdog, we see 31, which is a little more reasonable, but still, I would not take him in that range. I definitely wouldn't. I feel like he'd be maybe a 4th, 5th round guy I would take. I just don't like taking those risky injury guys. You know what I mean? So it's not going to pay off.
I mean, there was a positive report about Nabers about a week ago talking about a Harbaugh is hopeful he comes back week 1. Even if he does come back week 1, he still will be limited for, I would say, about the first month of the season. I wouldn't say that if he comes back week 1, his ADP right now is perfectly fine, in my opinion. But the expectation is on our channel right now is he starts on PUP and is going to miss the first 4 weeks of the season and comes back in week 5. We're just putting that out there.
Thank you guys for watching. Those were our 6 wide receivers to avoid. Make sure you avoid them if you don't want to lose your league. So we'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit all our socials: Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Let's go.
Draft them if you want to lose.